Going.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to tell you why you should live in or at least visit Hawaii. So, imagine sitting on the beach in the warm sun, basking in the golden rays with a cool drink in your hand. You can hear the waves casually crashing against the sand, Bob Marley faintly playing in the background, and the smell of coconut and summer surrounding you. This is where you could be. So I'm going to be talking about the activities and history that you can do while living in Hawaii. So to begin, after years of being a monarchy, Hawaii was the last state to enter the Union in 1959. Some facts is that the state capital of Hawaii is Honolulu, and there are currently 8 different islands in Hawaii. This is including Hawaii, Maui, Lanai, Molokai, Oahu, Kauai, Niahu, and Kaho'ola. So, some of America's richest history has occurred in Hawaii, notably the attack on Pearl Harbor. On December 7, 1941, in Oahu, the Japanese had launched a surprise attack. It was only 4 years later, after Japan had surrendered, that Hawaii had become the 50th state added to this country. Some other facts is that this is the Hawaiian state bird. It's a goose, and the name of it is a nene. Right now it is very rare, and it's protected by the Law and Restoration Project. This is the Hawaiian hibiscus, and it's also the Hawaiian flower. You can see them everywhere, and it's mostly like the symbol in Hawaii. So when it comes to living in Hawaii, it is very expensive, which is unfortunate because of how strikingly beautiful it is. But it is 6.7% less expensive than living in New York, and 3.6% less expensive than living in San Francisco. When you're considering the cost of traveling to Hawaii, a good idea would be to travel with a friend. This will help you split the cost and gives you the convenience of being with somebody you know, so you get to lower the price you pay for the luxury of housing there. Another well-known problem in Hawaii is the cost of gas. Prices can be very high because of the high volume of year-round tourists that visit Hawaii every year. It ranges from around $4.50 to $5.10 per gallon, and I think most of you can agree that this is very high, and it can be a turn-off when thinking about going to Hawaii. But a solution to the gas problem, and an awesome way to be green and see the sights, is riding a bike. Not only would you not be spending money on gas, but you'll also be getting the daily exercise you need to stay healthy. Now, obviously, Hawaii is a very large state, and this would seem impossible to get everywhere, but for those short 5 to 10 minute trips that you make every day, a bike really is the way to go, especially because you'll get to enjoy the scenery that can easily be taken for granted when riding around in a car. So moving on to the activities. Once all these problems are out of your way, you can move on to the luxuries of Hawaii and all the activities and rich culture it offers you. This is from surfing to scuba diving, hula dancing, and its food. And I have surveyed most of you. Some of you had said you liked surfing, some of you said no, and some of you had said you've never tried it. But for those of you who had liked it, surfing would probably be the place to visit. The earliest account of hinalu, or surfing, was in 1779 in Hawaii. It was described by a man named James King, and he had termed it as native Hawaiians riding a wooden plank on the swells of Kealakuku Bay in Hawaii. He also stated that it looked like a great source of exercise. So even though surfing may not have originated in Hawaii, it sure did flourish there. At one point, surfing was reserved just for kings, and that's why when you hear it in Hawaii, it sometimes is referred to as a sport of kings. One man named Duke, who grew up surfing in Waikiki, would teach visitors how to surf in canoe, and he was known as the father of modern surfing. There is currently a bronze statue of him in Waikiki, welcoming visitors to catch their first wave. So surfing is just another great reason to visit Hawaii, because you'll be able to learn more about the rich culture of surfing, and you may even be able to catch your first wave in these tropical waters. Another activity that is in Hawaii is scuba diving, which is one of the more popular things to do. Because even though there's really 8 main islands that most of you know about, there's said to be around 132 islands to scuba dive in. This making the diving life new and unexpected. unexpected for all who are doing it. This is a sea turtle, one of the many creatures that you will see when you're scuba diving. Another great activity that is part of the Hawaiian culture and a great activity for tourists to pick up is the art of hula dancing. Hula is known as the soul of Hawaii expressed in motion. So no one knows its exact origins, but Hawaiians can agree that the first hula was performed by a god or goddess, which makes the dance a sacred ritual. Every movement in hula has a specific significance, and every expression of the dancer's hands has great meaning. The movement of a dancer's body might represent certain plants, animals, and sometimes even more. So for example, when somebody's hula dancing and they're imitating a shark or a waving palm tree, a true hula dancer believes that he or she must become the shark or palm tree. So they'll envision it in their head and then express it through their movements. The costumes of the ancient dancers consisted of lei for the head and shoulders, and pau for the skirt, which was like the tree branches, and then kupi for the anklets, which was fashioned out of dog teeth or a whalebone. So some believe that hula was originally only danced by men, but legend and historical sources tell us that both men and women danced. Hawaiian hula is definitely unique and totally different from other Polynesian dances, because although it had began as a form of worship during religious ceremonies, it had gradually evolved into a form of entertainment. And most movies that show Hawaii now, they'll show hula dancing. So chants do accompany the movements and aid in telling the dancer's story. So traditionally it's not the dancer's hand, but it was the words that counted the most. So this video I'm going to show you is just a quick example of how they dance in Hawaii. This is the tapu, the skirts that they wear. Well, she's not wearing her shoulders, but and then you can't see her ankles, but there's probably whalebone on them. So now I'm going to move on to the food. So when it comes to traveling to different places, a huge thing to think about is what kind of food you'll be eating. Well, Hawaii offers many fine cuisines, and a local cuisine that is most known about is poke. It is originally involved in preserving raw fish with sea salt and then rubbing it with seasonings or cutting it into small pieces. The seasonings that you rub on the poke is made of seaweed, kukai nut, and sea salt, and this is what is traditionally used. But since first contact with Western and Asian cultures, green onions, chili peppers, and soy sauce have also become 3 other common additions to it. And poke is also healthy for you, so which is another good reason to eat it. During the 1970s, poke had become an appetizer to have with beer or bring to a party. Another Hawaiian meal is poi, which is a glutinous purple paste made from the pounded tar root, the staple starch food of the Hawaiians. Poi has great significance in the Hawaiian culture because it represents Haloa, or the ancestor chiefs, which is what makes it so important. When it is served at the table, it is inexcusable to have a fight or quarrel, because pleasant conversation and heartiness are promoted. Other traditional types of meals that are served in Hawaii are lomi salmon, blackened ahi, rock shrimp tempura, and coconut-flavored skewers. So Hawaii's culture is known for being extremely friendly and laid back, sharing in the spirit of aloha. So not only do you get to enjoy the beautiful weather and water, but you also get to experience active volcanoes like this one. So this beautiful place is not something you want to miss out on. I hope after hearing my speech, I persuade you to at least visit or live in Hawaii one day.